Hello, everyone. Welcome to Mining Now. I'm your host, Jared Downey. Today, as you can see, we are sitting in, I think we could say the best booth at MINExpo. It's the Komatsu booth. It's just an incredible setup. We're featuring SMS equipment. We've got Mike Brown. He's the EVP of Technology and Innovation at SMS Equipment, and Scott Schellenberg, Senior Director of Smart Mining at SMS Equipment. And in a minute, we're also going to bring in Marty Cavassa. He's the Director of Global Business Development of Autonomous System from the Komatsu. He's just going to give us a little bit of the layout of the booth because it's quite the spectacle we got set up here. Let's just start with, why don't we just start with titles? We'll go, Mike, why don't we start with you?
Sure.
What's your role with SMS?
Yeah, sure. Jared, good morning. So I'm Mike Brown. I'm the Executive Vice President of Technology and Innovation for SMS Equipment. What we do is we handle all of the technology element around our fleet. So as a dealer, our typical business model is to sell, support, deliver fleet for our customers, for mostly mobile fleet. And technology has become a super important dimension or factor to that now, whether you're monitoring trucks, use of autonomy for trucks, safety systems on equipment, and we take care of that technology both on the construction and on the mining side.
Then Scott, what about you? What's your day-to-day?
Yeah, it's the Director of Smart Mining. I look after the deployment and ongoing support of our mining technology solutions. So autonomous is one of several that we have out in the market. We do everything from working with the customer on training them how to use the systems. We do all of the technical support, both remote and on-site for the various technologies, look after a lot of the installation, and just help the customer utilize it to the fullest and maximize their value.
I got to ask a question to both of you before we want to cover lots to cover today, but I want a quick question. I keep asking it at the end of the interview, but I want to ask at the beginning on this one. I think it was probably, I'm going to say 10, 12 years ago, I heard someone on it was like CBC or something saying, this world is going to be all connected by the Internet of Things is going to be a thing. And it's and it seemed something that was maybe far away. And then it's just here. It's like we're living in it now. Just for both of you, how much has it changed? And did it feel quick or because you're sort of on the ground dealing with it, has it felt like a slow change?
Great question. If you look at the sensoring that's come on board, I think what you're seeing is the acceleration of the smart sensors and the capabilities and the computing power is really at the base of that speed. And that's what's really changed in the last 10 years or so. Autonomous haulage for Komatsu, that's been around for 17 years. Okay, so this is not something that has just happened within a couple of years. It's been very much a slow progression. And that progression is really about how people use and understand and make use and evolve with these systems. So, a couple of early adopters started in this game. They really worked with Komatsu as customers and partners to help develop the technology. And now it's really hit a level where it's now getting into kind of mass adoption, and it's really for the masses. So from some perspectives, it seems fast, but from other perspectives, we've been at this a while.
Right, yeah. Scott, what about you? What's your perspective on it?
Yeah, I agree. We've been, in Canada, we've been doing autonomous haulage for about 10 years now. So it kind of feels long for me, I guess, but we were definitely seeing the technology evolve now at a pace that we haven't in over the past few years, which is really what's allowing a lot of our customers, the non-early adopters here, to bring this on board and maximize their value.
And I think Mike, before we bring in Marty here, I just want to sort of what's sort of the theme, the focus of today? What are we covering?
So we're going to talk about what we call AHS, and AHS stands for Autonomous Haulage System. Focus on the H, haulage. So what AHS is really about is taking a couple of things. It's taking the advances in automation technology and vehicle automation technology and getting that into these large haulage trucks that we see. Taking the advances in sensoring, that we can start putting sensors around trucks, similar to what we have on our cars, in order to ensure that we can operate these pieces of equipment safely in a mine. And then also the computing power of the computer, which actually sets through GNSS systems the trajectory of those trucks around the mine. So at the end of the day, what you have is you have a a network of trucks operating with no driverless, autonomous, going around the mine and interacting with the other pieces of equipment, which are still typically staffed in today's operation. So we call that an autonomous haulage system, and this is what a lot of miners are looking at today in terms of that next advancement or that next step that they're looking at in terms of how they're going to operate their mine.
Okay, let's bring in Marty for a second, and then we'll jump right back into all the topics we want to cover.
Fantastic.
Marty, thank you for stepping in here. Okay, you've got a couple things to talk about here. I want to get to it. But give us a quick walk through this. We'll bring up some footage, hopefully. Give us this booth is. If we don't show it and talk about it, the audience will not appreciate because they're just seeing us through a little window. What's the setup here?
Yeah, if there's one thing that Komatsu does really well when we do these big mining events like this is we do drama really well. So very proud of our booth for 2024. Over, actually just in front of us here, as you guys wander around, this is the hard rock mining area. As we move down this corridor, which we're actually shooting into, starting here at this end, we have our collaboration with Toyota. This is our autonomous light vehicle.
We're gonna unpack that a little bit more here in a minute too.
As we move down towards, we call this our GHG corridor, right? We have the hydrogen fuel cell that we have a partnership with General Motors to further develop for mining applications, heavy industry. As we move beyond that, we actually have our battery pack that recently, as you may know, Komatsu acquired a company called American Battery Systems, right? So we're working very closely with them. Because as we look ahead to that truck down there at the opposite end of this, we have our power agnostic platform. So in the configuration, as we look at it here at the end of the corridor, is the power agnostic diesel truck, right? So it has the diesel genset effectively. So that is a fully electric truck with the trolley system, trolley assist to actually provide additional power on grade, right, to minimize emissions from the diesel engine. But it has a replaceable power module that we actually replace with a full battery pack. So that provides an easy pathway for a customer to go from a diesel electric to a fully battery electric, and then at some point in the future, even a hydrogen fuel cell.
Wow. Okay. Wow. So that's sort of the setup of what you got here. Let's talk about this little unit behind us.
Yeah. So we're really proud of this. This was a collaboration that we started with Toyota a few years back, actually. And we kind of announced it to the world basically in May of 2023. This actually represents a couple of things for Komatsu. Number one, as Mike and Scott had been talking about, right, is the advantage of autonomous haulage is one of the primary advantages is removing people from harm's way, right? And the interaction of light vehicles with trucks is something that we're seeking to minimize even further. So an autonomous light vehicle, getting more people out of harm's way, using this for one of its primary missions as, tool, parts delivery, back and forth a tool crib, parts bin, etc. But also, because the truck is controlled by our front runner system, so what we're effectively doing is we're providing a socket from our supervisory control system, and Toyota is plugging into that from their onboard control system, right? So we're using front runner and our dispatch fleet management system to provide the assignments for this truck. And the whole thing, the whole mine, the autonomous haul trucks, and now potentially the light vehicles, their movement will be orchestrated very carefully by front runner.
Wow.
So that minimizes the impact of autonomous light vehicle or a light vehicle in general, minimizes the impact with an autonomous haul truck, which can actually cause the truck to slow down. So by letting the system control the movements of the light vehicle, which comprise probably the greatest number of staffed vehicles inside an autonomous area, right? By letting front runner control the light vehicle at this point, it minimizes that impact and the fleet can perform as it is intended to perform.
It's a bit of a cruel joke that I won't get you for about 5 minutes because I just this is very unfair for me as an interviewer. But I do thank you, Marty, for just quickly stepping in. It's an amazing booth your team has set up. It really is.
Thank you.
Amazing products. We could talk for days, of course. But hopefully we will another time. We're going to bring back in Mike and Scott. And thank you for joining. Okay, Scott, what I want to do is I don't want to just break down the different components. Then, Mike, I want to sort of dovetail that in with benefits. But let's start with the different components because it's one of those things, you're both in it and people watching in their mind. But there's easy pieces to miss within it. So can we just break down the different setups and scenarios?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think Mike mentioned earlier there, with the autonomous truck, people think about autonomous, they automatically think of the truck. But when you talk about the AHS, the system, there's so many other components to it. So I'm going to start at with the central controller. So the main component of that is like how the humans are actually interacting, or the people are interacting with the autonomous system and controlling it. So in the central control, you've got basically the server applications there, which is your fleet management component, and your autonomous operations component to it, which is the front runner side. So they're interacting with that. The next component after the servers, really, you get into your wireless network. So you have to have a strong communication network. This whole thing is really based, that's one of the foundational components. So from your wireless, and we, generally Komatsu these days will do Wi-Fi or LTE. LTE is really emerging as the better choice there.
Could I just, and that's one of the advancements that's been made, right, on these mine site is the connectivity on sites has allowed for some of this technology. Is that a fair thing to say?
Oh, 100%. Yeah, you bet.
Yeah. Sorry, so I just wanted to kind of clarify that. And so then that's the wireless component?
Yeah, that's the wireless component. So that's getting you out to the edge, to the assets out there, to the autonomous trucks and we call them EMV, so they're equipped manual vehicles, similar to the light vehicle you see behind us here. So once you get out there on the autonomous haul truck itself, you have a whole series of components that are now allowing the haul truck to execute the commands that are coming from the server-based applications. So on board that truck, you have several different systems. You have the GNSS, so guidance systems, so that we can understand where the truck is positioned and where it's headed. You've got the ODS system, the obstacle detection system, looking for, physical objects in the real world that could potentially be in its way. You've got all of the truck control systems now, so the components that are steering the truck and braking the truck. So all parallel systems to what a staffed person uses. And then you've got a field computer in every unit, whether it's a manual light vehicle or the HTs, which is allowing the people to actually be able to interface with the software and understand exactly what's going on in the
Okay, perfect. So, Mike, now can you take some of those components and then, again, some of them seem obvious, but once you dig in, there's usually things that you miss when you're hearing it. So what are some of the benefits that are associated with each of these components?
Yeah, sure. So, as Scott said, it's such an integrated system. You have sensoring, you have computer technology, all of this working together. But all that technology working together really kind of starts to fit in place in three real benefit pillars. Okay. So let's start with the first one. So the first one is obviously safety. So safety is paramount for SMS equipment, it's paramount for Komatsu, and it's absolutely paramount for all of our customers. Right? And when you have an autonomous system, it's very predictable, and it increases the safety in the mine. You're not at the mercy of people driving the trucks. You know your surroundings a lot better. Things are much more predictable. And when we talk to people operators who are operating in mines, and you ask them what's been the impact of the AHS system for them, the first thing they'll always say is, "I feel much safer in the mine." Okay, so we all have an obligation to drive that safety in operations, and I think that the safety is absolutely incredible in terms of what these autonomous systems and automation in general actually deliver for us.
Yeah, on the safety side, is there another 10 times that it's going to get to, or where do you think the ceiling is on just the safety of these trucks on or any system on the mine?
So I think we've taken a significant step up from a staffed operations and how staffed operations operates today, and which you'll see is as sensoring and even AI technology starts to become more prominent within these solutions, we can even take that safety up a different level.
It's that the AI is going to bring in that learning component so that it's actually being adaptive, not just running through the system.
So just, now the truck can identify when there's something in its way and stop. Pretty soon with the AI and the vision technology, it will know exactly what that thing is. So they can then start to look at the data historically and say, okay, here's how we have to here's what's causing most of our stoppages or whatnot. And maybe say, geez, we need to put a fence on this side of the mine because we have animals coming into this area. Okay, so these are the sort of things that are the technology and some of the advancements that we're seeing coming out. And that is just even happening at a faster pace all the time.
Incredible.
Yeah.
Okay.
So the first thing is safety. Second thing is really the efficiency of the operation. So if you look at the efficiency of an AHS system, so people think, incredibly efficient, I can lower my cost by having people not in the truck. Well, the cost of the resourcing is one thing, and the people side is one thing. But if you look at the fact that you use less fuel, the fact that you have a machine, that the maintenance costs can go down significantly. I always explain to people, I say, imagine your teenage son driving a car versus your grandmother driving a car. Every AHS heavy haul truck in your mine now is being driven like your grandmother is driving it. Very predictable braking. You actually have embedded all of that knowledge on how to operate that truck into the system the safest, most predictable way possible. Right. So because of that, the maintenance costs actually go down significantly. So you have, component extensions, these sort of things, which are really good. The third thing, which is probably a little bit more of a challenge, and that's really to drive the productivity of an AHS system. So what AHS, if you think about it, when you have a very predictable operation now, because it's autonomous, you can start to now optimize so that when you're optimizing a truck in terms of its performance, you're optimizing all trucks. All right. So as opposed to you take out that individual factor. Some people like to drive fast. Some people like to drive slow. Some people like to go over potholes. Okay. With AHS, when you are optimizing a system, the whole system benefits at the same time. Right. So that productivity, when you start to do this, how you now manage your speeds, how you manage your behavior, your overall cycle times, your queuing times at the shovels, the loads, you can really start to drive that productivity anywhere between 10 and 20% when people understand how to use the system and then how to actually look at your whole mine design in order to optimize the capability of an autonomous system within your mine. So safety, cost of operation or efficiency, and productivity. There's your three benefits.
And a free shot at young drivers that are. When I was a great driver when I was 7. It took me about a year to learn how to. I had a Mustang. That's how I start. That's what I started driving with.
Jared, we were all great drivers.
No, I was the best driver.
When we were young.
I was the best
Our fathers
driver.
will all confirm that.
Yeah.
I think
So
just a
scary.
subcomponent of productivity, too, is just the consistency that AHS brings to the operation. So one thing that a lot of mining operations struggle with is consistent ore delivery to your hoppers or your crushers. So the one thing with AHS that it does give you is you've got productivity now. You're not stopping for coffee breaks. You don't have to stop for shift change. You only have to stop these trucks for fuel once a day, and that's basically it. So your ability to manage that flow of ore delivery is a massive bonus for the customers that are running it.
Manage and predict.
And manage it and predict it. Absolutely.
Yeah. What I want to get into some of the implementation questions, but before I do that, I started doing this a few months ago because I realized we do these technical interviews, and there's probably someone that knows a lot more than me going, can you please just ask the question that I actually need asked? For both of you, what are a couple, even one common question that you're getting when you have these conversations?
I think the first question, first thing I would say is people want to know, will autonomous work in their mine? Okay, So everybody basically says, look, I have a very unique mining condition. I have deep pit mining, I have winter conditions, I have soft underfooting, and they think their conditions are special, and to a certain extent they are. And what we have to always try to do is to figure out, first of all, when we look at people's mine plan, their conditions, are they set up for AHS to be successful? Are they set up and established for them to basically maximize the return from their investment in an automation system? So the first thing we always like to help people understand is look at their mine, look at their mine plan, look at their setup, look at their operational culture, okay? And then say, here's where you are today, here's what AHS will do for you. And if you look at closing some of these gaps, you can take that technology and the value of technology to this level. And I think that's probably one of the things that people really need to start thinking about when they're considering how technology can help them, as opposed to just blindly investing in technology, not being ready for what it really means to their operation.
Or the flip side would be blindly not investing in it because you think you're set up, you just assume you're set up. Do you run into cases where people think it's not going to work and then they look at it and go, oh, this actually is set up?
Yeah,
right.
Absolutely. We have customers that are probably really, really well set up, okay? But culturally, maybe they're just, they're not, they maybe fear technology a little bit or whatnot, and you have to sit with them and take them to a few of your customer sites, take them through the journey, understand what that is, and get them comfortable with this. So absolutely, that is something we do as well. So,
yeah, and that's a great point. And one of the things, and we do run into this where a customer says, you know what, we're already a very efficient staffed conventional mining organization. Why would we implement AHS? And in fact, those are really the organizations that are set up for success to be able to really take advantage of the technology.
Right.
On the flip side, you get customers that are really struggling with their productivity and their efficiency, and they think that that the technology is going to be their savior, when in fact, they're the ones that will struggle even harder. So, getting a customer set up properly from a change management perspective is probably the largest factor in the success that they're going to achieve with their systems.
You have no idea how bad I want to ask different mining examples.
Yeah, we always
we got a few.
We always tell our customers that the adoption of AHS is not a technology problem; it's a people project.
Because the technology is there.
Yeah, it's such a significant business transformation, people transformation, change management effort.
Okay, let's jump into implementation. I'll start with you, Mike, and then just both of you could jump in on it. But what should the expectation be? And I always think of it maybe from the first week of the conversations, 6 months in, a year in. What should people expect? What is the role SMS is playing within that?
First of all, people have to think about AHS not as a project. It's not a project. It's a program. It has a very long life to it. So when you're starting to talk about AHS, you have to start right at the start and understanding the setup of your mine and what you're trying to do with AHS. You have to understand the regulatory side in terms of getting all the regulatory approvals. And these are things that we guide our customers through. So we have people who have lived that journey with 2, 3, 4 customers right from tip to tail. So they will come in and they'll say, all right, here are the different components of your timeline, your life cycle of your program to get the full transformation of your organization into this adoption and into this value of AHS. So working with the regulators, getting yourself set up, getting ready for operation. So defining all the work streams that are going to have to be impacted by this, your maintenance work stream, your training work stream, your competency management work streams. So getting those work streams established and then putting a program in place on when those work streams have to start really activating within the adoption of the technology. The technology is amazing. Komatsu have built such amazing technology in the AHS space. That's not the problem. The problem is largely, and that's where a dealer comes in, is really to help our customers understand what does that program look like, what's required, and for us to put in the subject matter experts to really help them guide that journey. And then right into the end, once the starter pistol goes, and we're actually bringing on these autonomous trucks into the mine, of embedding people directly into their operations in order to ensure that they are learning the practices. Okay, there's you can't just read a book on this. You have to live through these experiences, and you have to have people beside them who will actually guide them through that. And that takes a little while.
You're segueing perfectly into my next question is, what has your team learned? That process, you said you've got 4 or 5 people that have done, or you have people on your team that have done 4 or 5 from tip to tail.
Yes, deployments with different customers.
Scott, is there any lessons that you've learned over the years that your team has learned implementing these processes?
Oh yeah, 100%. I think the first one, when we're implementing a project like this, is having the senior leadership buy-in from the top and the engagement, I think. Setting up a proper governance structure to guide the program, steer the program, hold folks accountable for the deliverables on these programs. There's such huge transformational programs that it's you have to keep it boxed.
And that's the biggest thing is, it's one of those things if you miss sort of one person's buy-in, you can run into one person can cause a lot of disruption if they're not on board or not informed.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
One person, one shift, one functional unit within the operation of the mine. We always tell the senior management when we're starting one of these projects that if you think about your mine and your mine over the last probably 20, 30, 40 years, this could be the biggest business transformation that you've actually gone through. All right. And you got to kind of put it in that context. So, operate it as a program.
Yeah. And just to add to that, a lot of customers, when they're first looking at AHS, they think, we're basically just adding autonomous trucks to our mine site, and we'll continue kind of mining and structure stays the same, and we're just going to have no drivers in the cab. That's truly not the case. You physically have to think differently, you have to plan differently, you have to mine differently. So, as part of that transformation, what we're talking about there is, everybody has to be bought in to the fact that how they did things yesterday, they have to be open to doing things differently. And that's where we bring a lot of our subject matter experts in that have been doing autonomous haulage for 10, 15 years, at the operations level, bring them in to work with the supervisors on the ground, helping them set up their shovel pits differently, working with the mine planners to help them actually set the operations guys on the ground up for success to start with, that sort of thing. So big difference in how you mine, and that's one of the things that I think a lot of folks, when they're looking at AHS, maybe don't truly appreciate.
As things get updated, which sort of is a dovetail into the where is it going question, but so your perspective on where things are going, just from your perspective, but also when things are getting updated, like let's say 2 years from now, Komatsu comes out with the updated sensor, are these systems set up to then get updated? Sort of like one of these electric cars, you can update it overnight. Is it one of those, something like that, or is it a lot of physical updates if new technology is introduced? Yeah,
we have both. So there's always updates to the software. Komatsu continues to really drive a continuous improvement product, right in the technology. And every time you hit a different mining environment for a customer, there's always different things that we see that we need. Okay, it's not all the same. I'll give you an example in the oil sands. Oil sands is a very soft underfooting. And when we first started operating AHS, now one of the great things about AHS is you knew exactly where that truck was going to go. Well, in the very soft roads, if you're running that truck consistently, guess what happens? You get deeper ruts. So now Komatsu quickly put into the technology the ability to constantly offset the tires, to shift every truck a little bit and then back again. So now actually you're using the truck to actually level out the roads.
Right.
So you have to have this be driven by this continuous improvement within the technology in order to drive those updates and those improvements and whatnot into the system. So that's really knowledge base. The second thing is we're having tremendous advances, as I mentioned earlier, on sensoring technology. Yeah. Sensoring technology, we see it in our cars. You don't buy a car today without unbelievably sensitive and high quality sensors in terms of detecting things on the roads and whatnot. So all that comes into the mining industry. And when you have that increased capacity in terms of sensoring, now you can identify objects maybe a little bit further. Maybe now you can drive a little bit faster. There's all these factors that come into play. Yeah. So those updates are really a whole part of that program and really working with our customers to understand what features and functions and what do they need to make their mine more productive. Okay, so that continuous improvement, big part of the program.
Yeah. Scott, any thoughts to wrap it up?
Yeah, I think the other piece around the continuous improvement, the secret sauce really behind the autonomous operation is the fleet management system, which ultimately, that's the engine that's really driving your productivity in your mine site. And I think there's a lot of advancements coming in that aspect of the system as well.
Yeah.
Yep.
So, one last point I think is when we kind of look at where things are going. So if you think about a truck being operated in a staffed environment, you might download information on that truck once a day in terms of what that truck's doing, oil pressure, strut pressures, different things like this. But when you have an autonomous system, there is a computer that is measuring every single element of that truck, every single element of what your sensors are telling you the roads are like. Okay, it is a massive, massive amount of data that is being captured and processed from that truck. With that data, we can process that data now and use the availability of that data to even understand how do we completely change how we're designing our mines, our road networks, these sorts of things. So I think that's really going to be one of the biggest advancements is as computational ability, computational speed, AI algorithms, as what we can actually do to unleash the power of that data to even drive a more efficient operation.
It's amazing stuff, gentlemen. We could take about each of those components and break them down and do episodes on each single one.
Talk for hours, for sure.
But I hear the music coming on. We got filming early today.
Okay.
We probably need to get out of this booth so that people can mob it.
Awesome.
Okay, thank you both, and we'll do it again soon.
Yeah, thank you, Jared.
Thank you.
Thanks, Jared. Bye-bye.
And thank you, everybody, for watching. Of course, there'll be plenty of links you can click on, find more information. SMS equipment, Komatsu. Well, if you're watching on LinkedIn, it'll be tagged. You can just click and follow. And make sure to subscribe to our channel as well. Thank you for watching, everybody. We will see you on the next episode of Mining Now.